There is a moment, usually sometime after 45. A quiet thought appears and refuses to leave. It sounds simple, almost neutral, but it carries weight. Am I losing control, or am I finally seeing clearly? At first, it feels like something is slipping. You notice your patience thinning in places where it used to stretch. You notice how certain conversations exhaust you faster than they did 10 years ago. Achievements that once felt like milestones now feel like maintenance. The structure of your life still stands, but inside it, something has shifted. You wonder if this is the beginning of decline. You ask yourself whether stability is cracking from the inside, old maps that no longer match the terrain. This is the point many people label a crisis. The word sounds dramatic. It suggests breakdown, instability, irrational decisions, something fragile about to collapse under pressure. But what if the pressure you feel is not destruction, but adjustment? Earlier in life, much of your energy was directed outward. You built, you proved, you secured, you carried responsibility without questioning its shape. Survival and growth demanded momentum more than reflection. There was clarity in that stage, but it was a clarity of direction, not of depth. Over time, success becomes familiar. Responsibilities become routine. The external structure becomes stable enough that the noise finally lowers. And when the noise lowers, you begin to hear something that was always there. It is not panic. It is awareness. You begin to see where you compromised more than you admit. You begin to see where you chose safety over truth or loyalty over authenticity, not because you were weak, but because you were building something that required sacrifice. Now the building stands, and the sacrifices are visible. That visibility can feel like loss. It can feel like regret. The life you constructed so carefully does not fully represent the man you have become. And when that realization surfaces, it is easy to interpret it as instability, but instability feels chaotic. What you are experiencing is precise. You are not confused about everything. You are specific about what no longer fits. You are not doubting your entire history. You are questioning certain patterns that once felt necessary and now feel outdated. That is not collapse. That is refinement. In younger years, identity is often built through action. You define yourself by what you accomplish, what you provide, what you endure, and how reliably you show up for others even when no one asks how you are doing. There is strength in that model, and it carried you far. Yet strength without reflection eventually becomes rigidity. And rigidity begins to crack, not because it is weak, but because it has reached its limit. Midlife is often described as a storm, but for many men, it feels more like fog lifting. You look at your career and see not just status, but cost. You look at relationships and see not just commitment, but imbalance. You look at your own habits and recognize which ones were coping strategies rather than conscious choices. This clarity can be uncomfortable. It introduces nuance into what used to be simple narratives of success or failure. You may ask, if I see all this now, was I blind before? No, you were focused. Focus requires narrowing attention. You do not have the luxury of constant self-examination. You operate on what works. Now something else becomes possible. Not because you failed, but because you survived. There is enough stability to look inward without fear of immediate collapse. There is enough experience to compare who you were with who you are. This questioning can feel like loss of control because it challenges the identity you maintained for decades. When the internal compass adjusts, the old coordinates no longer align. The familiar sense of direction fades for a moment, and that absence feels dangerous. But what if the compass is not broken? What if it is recalibrating? Clarity often begins as discomfort. When you recognize that certain achievements did not deliver the fulfillment you expected, you are not ungrateful. You are honest. When you admit that some relationships are sustained by habit rather than vitality, you are not disloyal. You are perceptive. When you feel the urge to slow down, to simplify, to stop proving and start understanding, you are not collapsing. You are differentiating between noise and signal. Earlier in life, urgency protects you. Later in life, urgency exhausts you. The midlife moment is when you begin to see that constant acceleration is not the same as direction. You begin to measure time differently. You notice that decades behind you are tangible, while decades ahead feel finite. That finiteness sharpens perception rather than dulling it. You are not losing control. You are seeing clearly.